Well, hello friends, Coach Bob with you today, and today we are going to continue on our motorcycles or killer series. This is number 2. This is going to be one that you're going to find very, very interesting, so stick around for sure. Got some great videos for you to check out. You're going to love them. They're just awesome. All right, so before we get going, if you would, give this video a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel. We are trying to grow, but enough of that, so let's get going. All right, so last week, I made the video on, wearing your gear all the time. And that, when you don't wear your gear, I showed a video of Joan Mir. I'll play it right up here, sliding across the pavement and doing just a beautiful recovery. And, the video this week is on speed and impact. So I got a comment on the video, and I'm going to read this comment to you. I'll drop this right up top too. And I thought this was a very good comment. However, sometimes we make comments like this and we go, the gear is not important. And that's just not true. So I don't think that's what this guy was trying to say. Anyway, Audi Guy Paul 6004 left this comment. Very good comment. It says, while all that leather will protect you if all you do is slide. He's very right. If all you're doing is sliding, the leather will protect you. But be under no illusion, if you come off on a public road at speed, like Mir did with all that leather suit, all it will do is keep you in a bag, making it easier and less messy to scoop you up off the road. He's right on that. Most bikers are killed by what they hit or what hits them, not by a Mir style crash, which leads us into today's video, because last week was more about just falling, right? Sliding, protecting yourself from being a dum-dum, right? But this week we're going to talk about hitting things, hitting the ground, hitting a car, hitting other things, and some statistical data of what actually gets us. Now, we know it is important to wear our gear. And I will say that if you're going to hit something, it's better to have gear on than not have gear on. That's for sure. The more protection that you're afforded by body armor, the better off you're going to be. There are things that you can't defend yourself against. I'm going to share a couple of stories, but first let's look at a quick video right here. Now, the video that you're looking at over the top of me is one of Paul Espargaro, where he crashes on his gas machine. Now, he hit the gravel. Now, they said that this gravel, because of the way it was designed, it was not set up properly for a smooth slide. You can see a lot of flipping going on with the motorcycle and stuff. When he hit that wall, he broke his jaw. His brother, Elisha Espargaro, in an interview later, made a comment about this and how the race director has to do a better job with this gravel trap because it's dangerous in just hitting the gravel. So you can imagine what heavier things will do. It said it broke his jaw in its entirety, from his mouth to his ear. He wasn't even able to hear anything because his jaw was pushing on his ear. Imagine the force of the impact. Now, this is a guy wearing one of the most high-tech helmets in the world, wearing some of the most highly advanced safety equipment in the world, and this happened to him. Here's another accident that just recently occurred. This is a Celestini Vietti. This was in a Moto 2 crash. So as you can see here, he's flying through the air. Now watch his head impact right here. Man, I'm going to tell you, that is a brutal impact. He walked away from this. So it is important that, you wear your gear. Obviously, if you're banging your head like this, if you don't have a helmet on, you will end up unrecognizable. Here's another one. This is another race video. This is of Maverick Vinales. He's doing about 120 miles an hour here, 200 kilometers an hour, when his brakes are heating up and fail and he's not going to make the turn. So he ends up having to actually jump off of the motorcycle and he slides down the pavement. Pretty crazy. Now the motorcycle hit that barricade and it was a safety wall. It was an inflatable safety wall. They ended up red flagging the race because that safety wall was no longer there. You can see the motorcycle caught on fire. Pretty darn crazy. He walked away from this. Again, he didn't hit anything. Had he not bailed out, he would have hit that wall. It would have been a different story. All right, so story time. Now I'm going to sanitize this quite a bit. I'm not going to talk about all of the circumstances surrounding this, and I'm not going to talk about names or places or any of that for the sake of privacy. However, a friend of mine was in an accident years ago while doing in excess of 100 miles an hour down a highway, a well-traveled highway. We might call them the interstate. Anyway, he ended up coming off the machine and was sliding down the highway. All was going well. He was wearing all of his gear and he was sliding fine. When all of a sudden he sees the reflector on the road, his boot hits the reflector and it snapped the bone mid-shin and created a compound fracture just from hitting a reflector on the highway. So understand that obstacles and objects, when you hit them, it is a different story. Speed, the amount of speed that you're carrying when you hit an object can definitely increase your risk of death, severe injury, and those sorts of things. And the best gear in the world is not going to keep that bone from snapping sideways if you're sliding down the highway at 60 miles an hour. And I'm talking about you sliding at 60 because your motorcycle was doing over 100. All right. Now, I know none of you are that irresponsible, and I know I'm not that irresponsible. Okay. Here is an accident that we're going to look at. Now, this was put out by the same safety commission over in Australia that made the video from last week. If you hadn't watched last week's video, be sure and check it out. It's really good. I love this video. I'm just going to play it in its entirety and then we'll talk.
Thursday afternoon in a 60 zone. This 34-year-old motorcyclist was on his way home. It's our job to work out why he never got there. The rider broke his neck on impact here, having crashed into this car that was turning right. By analysing the impact, we know he hit the car at 30 kilometres per hour, and these marks on the road tell us that he skidded for 21 metres, having braked hard here. When he first reacted, he was doing 68. But let's change one small thing. At 60, the driver would have had more chance to see him properly. He'd have stayed in control and reached this point a moment later. The car would have cleared his path and he'd be home by now. You decide on your speed. The physics decides whether you live or die.
All right, so as you can see, just 8 miles an hour, 8 kilometers an hour, 10 kilometers an hour. 10 kilometers an hour is roughly, 6.5 miles an hour, 6.2 miles an hour, unless my math is off. You can correct me down in the comments if you so desire. So a little bit of speed, 5-10 miles an hour, makes a very, very big difference. Now, we've done videos before on safety and the number of motorcycle accidents that really involve only one motorcycle, and that's most motorcycle accidents. There are the cars that pull out in front of us, and I'm certainly not, belittling that or downplaying that. We know that a car pulling out in front of us or running into us, we know they can kill us, they can get us. There's no doubt about it. And when you're going fast, you're really making it harder for them to see you because when they look up, they see something far off in the distance, and all of a sudden you're on them like that. You're doing 3 times the speed limit, 2 times the speed limit. It's hard to get mad at the driver of the car if he can't judge your distance because you're driving like a maniac. So we have to exercise due diligence as well and watch our speed. Now, I read some articles this week about, the greatest threat to us on a motorcycle rider is risky behavior. Now, risky behavior has as much weight on the idea that you're going to die in an accident as anything else. There is actually an article that calls it stupidity. I'm not going to go down that road. You can go down that one on your own. But the 3 top contributors for fatalities in motorcycle accidents are this: objects of impact, that's number 1. Risky behavior, that's number 2. Third is speed. So understand that these things, when you start putting these 3 together, that's when your chances of really getting seriously injured or possibly dying go up unbelievably. So if you're driving like a maniac on the road, take turns at super high rates of speed, you see this a lot like on the Tail of the Dragon, places like that where folks are driving like maniacs, you are increasing your risk of fatality exponentially by driving like that. All right, in an article written that is on the PubMed National Institute of Health website, I'll have a link down below for that. But anyway, there was a study done, the fatality risk in motorcycle collisions with roadside objects in the United States. Very, very interesting study. So you're going to have multiple things that you look at. You're going to have primary impact and secondary impact. And there's even a third level of impact. The more things in that chain, the higher your risk of fatality. So this analysis was based on 3,600 fatal motorcycle crashes with roadside objects. So this is not every accident that occurred with roadside objects where people did not die. This is actually recognizing these 3,600 that were fatally injured and why and what happened. What can we learn from this? Collisions with roadside objects were found to have a higher fatality risk than collisions with the ground or another motor vehicle. In other words, hitting a sign, hitting a pole, hitting a curb, hitting a mailbox while you're sliding down the road, you have a greater chance of dying from that than you do by getting hit by the car. That is hard to believe, isn't it? Because we're always told, man, the guy got hit by a car or he got T-boned and he ran into the car. Most of those accidents, the person is ejected from the motorcycle, go over the car, and they slide and roll down the road and they hit something that stops them and kills them. You know, Ken, my buddy, we were talking today about how everything around the runways, when we were air traffic people, when you're doing all of your data collection and we're going to put this up and this has to be built and that has to be done, everything has to be frangible. What that means, it has to break away. When you're sliding down the highway, when you're on the motorcycle, there's only one thing that's frangible. That's you. You're the frangible item. You're the item that's going to break, not the car. The sign may break, but you're the one that is really going to break. Motorcycle collisions, this is not a real hard one to figure out on this one. Motorcycle collisions with guardrails were 7 times more likely to be fatal than someone who just collides with the ground. So if you just hit the road and you slide and you stop, cool. But if you hit a guardrail, you have a 7 times greater chance of dying from hitting that guardrail. Collisions with trees are 15 times more fatal than just hitting the ground. So understand this. There are trees everywhere. And I'm going to tell you, if you are driving like a maniac and you run off the side of the road, even if you're wearing your gear and you hit a tree at a high rate of speed, you're probably not going to make it. And if you do, you can thank your lucky stars. But then you have the one that is the most harmful in the majority of crashes. So we understand that the guardrail and the tree exponentially raise your potential for disaster, right? Departing this earth in an untimely fashion. But the one that is the most common, so a 2-event crash involving collisions with signage, are the most common for fatalities. So hitting a road sign, a highway sign, a curve sign, a speed limit sign, that sort of thing. You know, I was always told, the fall don't kill you, it's that sudden stop. So I've given you a lot of data. I've shown you video, and you're going, well, what can we do to not have these collisions? Well, there's a lot of things you can do. We're just going to go over a few real quick. One, you can slow down, ride the speed limit. You don't have to do 100 miles an hour. You don't have to do 50 and a 30. You know, when you have a variation of speed, that's when things happen. When you have cars doing the speed limit at 30 and you're doing 50 and you're overtaking them at a high rate of speed, it's these variations in speed that get you. They get you because you're going to end up hitting somebody and they're not going to see you, and you're going to make that slide. So make sure that you're maintaining that proper flow in traffic. Another thing you can do is cut the risky behavior. You don't drink when you ride. You don't try to take curves at such a high rate of speed that you're not going to make them. If you see a hazard ahead, be cautious of things that you see. If there are construction signs, if there's uneven pavement, all of that stuff, rain, think about the rain. Can I stop like I normally do? We've all hit that white paint or that yellow paint on the highway when the roads are wet. How slippery that is. It's so easy to go down and slide a long way. So last week we talked about quality helmets, quality gloves, quality boots, riding pants, jackets, gear, armor. They make airbags. They make all kinds of stuff that can help you survive these falls. But understand that those things can only do so much if you hit something really hard. That sudden stop is a real bummer. All right, so I want you to make sure you pay attention to what you're doing, cut out the risky behavior, slow down, and wear your gear. By the way, thank you for the comment about the mirror slide. All right, till next time, I want you to do me a favor. You, yes you, go out by the motorcycle of your dreams, eat right, take care of yourself, and remember, if you're not having fun, you're doing it wrong. Now you go seize the day, and I'll see you on the road real soon.